Good morning. Well, this morning I've got a really nice interlocution that I got last night from Our Lady. And it's about Our Lady walking with us, our apostles of love, just as she walked with the first apostles. So here goes. Just as I was a mother to all the first apostles, so too am I a mother to you, my apostles of love. Consider for a moment all the mistakes that they made as they were establishing the first churches, and consider all the difficult decisions and dilemmas that they had to face and deal with. I walked with them and through this, and I walk with you now in these times of change and discernment. My children, many storms are coming to shake you and to test you, and many of these storms could be better described as hurricanes and tornadoes. There will be unimaginable upheaval and change, and yet I will be there, guiding you and leading you despite the storms. My children, never judge each other, but search for what is good and help each other with patience and with love, just as I did with those apostles. Love, my children, and when you see mistakes, then love even more, and love will lead to the truth and will purify mistakes over time, just as gold is purified in the fire. Well, what a lovely motherly message from Our Lady, our mother. And I love this image because when we see this image, we can really see the gentleness of Our Lady, her motherly gaze, her goodness, and ultimately that's what she wants for us, our goodness. And of course, because in the spiritual realm, God has given her so many gifts and so many charisms, Our Lady knows so much about each and every one of us on an individual level, but she also knows an awful lot of things about the world and about the church at a global level. And so she starts off at that individual level this morning, and she's saying that, just as when Jesus died and was resurrected, and then those 12, new apostle, but the early apostles started out preaching and teaching, and they also had to start out developing churches. Like I said yesterday, when Jesus was alive, there was no talk of building churches because the institution of the Eucharist hadn't happened yet. But it was only after Jesus' death, basically, that the apostles had to start about, establishing churches, things like Holy Communion and all these type of things. That was never an issue before. And so the apostles had many, many questions, and we will see in the Acts of the Apostles over the next couple of weeks in the readings that there were many squabbles. There were many squabbles with St. Peter, for example, and St. Paul. There were squabbles, why is St. Peter eating with these people, but then he's not eating with them at other times, and what's going on, and St. Paul actually corrected him on that. There's also many squabbles we see later. There was the breaking of the bread, and the priests and the apostles, they were arguing a lot and spending a lot of time on the distribution of food, and then they decided there should be deacons and that the deacons could look after that sort of a work so that the apostles could dedicate their lives to the preaching ministry and to the more spiritual side of things. So all of these things you see happen through trial and error. And it's not like that Jesus died, was resurrected, and then from that point on the apostles made no mistakes. No, I'm sure they made mistakes right up to the end of their lives. And Our Lady was there walking with them. Our Lady knew, you see, I joke with people at times in saying this, but when Jesus resurrected and when they went into the tomb, what was found in the tomb was this beautiful white linen cloth we call the shroud, and Jesus' beautiful face was imprinted on that cloth. And the angels were there. But what Jesus did not leave in the tomb was an A to Z. He didn't leave, for example, an advanced form of the catechism. He didn't leave in the tomb pastoral care for all people, including LGBT people or whatever. He didn't leave in any of these things, healing ministry guide, deliverance guide, demons guide. He left just a shroud, a cloth. And as a result, it has been up to the church over the centuries, through trial, error, prayer, experience, all the rest, to develop and to expand on these things. And so that has happened. And so Our Lady walked with these early apostles through the difficult decisions and dilemmas that they had to face. And so that's what Our Lady is saying. We might think now, oh gosh, it's so hard for us now, we've all these modern day issues that we don't know what to deal with. Our Lady is saying, no, it's always been like that. Back then, 2,000 years ago, the apostles would have found it hard for them and the issues that they had to deal with. The people 100 years ago would have found the issues that they were dealing with difficult. Now here we are, and we've got a new set of issues, and we find our issues difficult. So Our Lady is saying, don't worry, be calm. I'm walking with you. I'm loving you. I'm guiding you, just in the same way as I walked with those early apostles. Now she's not saying, obviously, then, we can do what we want and mistakes don't matter. But she's saying, no, we can do our very best through prayer, through discernment, through listening to her as best we can, and yet mistakes can still happen. And they're the type of mistakes that God is very merciful and very understanding of, just as when someone is speaking a foreign language, they're doing their best and they make a mistake. We don't shame them, we don't condemn them, because we know it's normal. However, if they were making no effort, then we might get a bit more firm. So then Our Lady goes from the individual level to the more global level, and she says, my children, many storms are coming to shake you and test you, and these could be better described as hurricanes and tornadoes. There will be unimaginable upheaval and change, and yet I will be there guiding you and leading you despite the storms. Now, I'm by no means an end times expert. There are other people that know far more about that than me. However, I don't need to be an expert to know that there are an awful lot of things prophesied. There are an awful lot of things that are prophesied to come to the church, such as the illumination of conscience, such as a lot of disasters and a lot of things that God is allowing, basically, and will allow to shake the world, to shake the church. And these are the storms. Also, storms can be all the religious arguing and the maybe threats of a schism and the schism in the church and all these type of things. These are all the storms, okay? And yet Our Lady is saying that she is going to be there with us and guiding us. And so she's asking us not to be afraid. Now she's obviously also asking us not to be complacent, but there's a big difference between that and being fearful. So then she goes on to say, my children, never judge each other, but search for what is good and help each other with patience and with love, just as I did with those apostles. So what does she mean by that? Well, when you see somebody else in ministry doing their best, okay, or someone, a Catholic family, whatever, and they're doing their best, but even at their best, you can see, at least you think you see, that there are mistakes, that there are shortcomings, that they do this, they don't do that, they're not fully clear on such and such a thing. Sometimes I'm speaking of my own experience and how at times people have spoken about me and can be critical about some of the things I said or didn't say or whatever. And perhaps they had a point. I always, when I get corrected like that, or someone says something, even if it's not in the nicest way, I always go away and think. But what Our Lady is saying is not to judge, but to keep on loving. If you see someone who's genuinely doing their best, keep on loving, keep on encouraging what is good, keep on praying. And that's when Our Lady is saying that her love and God's grace over time will purify. And again, I'll go back to the example of people learning languages. People learn languages, they make lots of grammar mistakes and that type of thing. Rome wasn't built in a day. But over time, with correction, with love and with patience, over time people improve enormously. And often people who maybe arrived in England or a country and had very little English, after a couple of years their English can be excellent. But why? Because they get encouraged. Whereas if they were to be discouraged every time, saying, oh, don't go talking to anybody, you make too many mistakes, then they would stay where they're at and they wouldn't grow, they wouldn't develop. And so she says she will purify, and our mistakes will be purified over time, just as gold is purified in the fire. So what is she saying? What she's saying, keep close to Our Lady, is basically the secret. In the message yesterday, we got the same thing, that in these modern times, Jesus is using his mother very, very powerfully. Jesus loves his mother enormously. It's the power of God working through her. It's not her power directly, but it's the power of Jesus, and Jesus is using her. And if we want to glorify Jesus, if we want to love Jesus, if we want to give immense joy and glory to Jesus, then we can do that by loving Our Lady, listening to Our Lady, respecting Our Lady, because the wisdom from Our Lady is the wisdom of Jesus, is the wisdom of God, and Jesus absolutely loves using her, because he or she is his mother, she's also his creature, and it's just the divine order. And sometimes he allows this to happen as well, so that we come to know her better, because Our Lady is a gift to us. Our Lady is also our mother in heaven. She's also going to be our heavenly mother. She's also going to be queen of the angels. And even in heaven, we will get an immense joy from looking at Our Lady and saying, wow, look at her, the most splendid of all the creatures look at her immensely above all the rest of us. When I say above, I don't mean in a prideful way, but she's more gifted, more perfected in every single virtue than we will ever have. And so that is a wonderful thing, wonderful thing. And so that's why at times Jesus is using her now on earth to guide us, so that we have a glimpse. We have a glimpse of what she's like, who she is, and the joy, the amazing love she has for us. And through loving her, we can give greater love, we can give greater glory, we can have great appreciation to God, because she is a gift from God to us to help us. And so, on that note, let us stay close to Our Lady. Let's not worry about these storms, but stay close to her, stay close to prayer, stay close as well to the simple messages of Medjugorje, prayer from the heart, close to the sacraments, the Eucharist, confession, reconciliation, fasting, reading the Bible, and also stay close to one another. Our Lady brings us into these little groups of friendships of spiritual people, so that we can pray together, we can love together, we can share together, we can have a coffee together, we can have a laugh together, we can all go to Medjugorje together. We can be united in love, because love is contagious, if you like. Love shines as like a bright fire that draws people. So let our love shine, let us be Our Lady's apostles of love, let us not get discouraged, and let us trust in Our Lady for any mistakes that we might make, and let's just keep on going. So from London, from me, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.